Good morning, everybody. All right, let's talk about NLP Practitioner Training. If you don't know already, my name is Damon Cart, and my channel is lifemasterygym.com. Well, in addition to my channel, it's also what I do, and I teach NLP, and I've been doing it for several years now. So, what to expect when you enroll in an NLP practitioner training, and how do you get the most out of it? This is something I'm very good at because I spent a lot of money on my first trainings, and I thought to myself, because I really didn't have the money, I was like, "I am going to squeeze every single drop of anything valuable out of this training because I might not get to do more trainings." But of course, I did end up doing several trainings. Actually, not several. I did 3 practitioner trainings before I started teaching Neuro Linguistic Programming. So I trained with various teachers, and I really felt like there was so much juice to squeeze out of a practitioner training that if I just went through it one time and never practiced it again, I had the feeling that I was never really going to truly learn NLP. And I was right about that. It took, you really, this is going to sound kind of strange. I don't want to say you don't learn NLP in a practitioner training because you do, but the real learning happens when you practice it and you apply it in real life. It's not like it just goes into your head and then you're like, okay, I'm an NLPer now. I've got NLP. It really doesn't work like that. It's just like anything else. You have to practice it to get good at it. So if you're tired of trying to learn NLP from videos on YouTube and from reading books, and you're ready to, or you're seriously considering enrolling in an NLP practitioner training, I'm going to tell you what you need to know. So keep watching, and this is consider this part of your research and looking into doing an NLP practitioner training. Like I said, I did 3 with various teachers before I started teaching, and also I know from my students what works really well for them. And of course, also feel free to put your questions in there. I will get to them all. I'll stay on until I answer every single question. And then, of course, if you're watching this video later after I'm not doing it live anymore, of course, feel free to comment and ask questions. I'll be happy to answer them. Learning this, well, 2 things I really love is neurolinguistic programming and learning. And in addition to loving to learn, I love to teach. So the whole process is what I'm all about. It's what I love doing. So decide if you want to do live training or online training. There's pros and cons to both. So you wanna just that's and obviously something you need to decide because when you start looking into trainings, you wanna do some research, you wanna know which direction you're gonna go in. There's a lot of great live trainings, there's a lot of great online trainings, and, it also depends on, do you have the time to po perhaps fly to some other place to take the training, and can you do that? Can you take the time out of work? Can you afford, the flight and on top of the cost of the training? And also hotel accommodations or wherever you'll be staying. These are all things you need to consider. And that's what makes online trainings really wonderful because they're really accessible and you don't have to pay the extra cost of travel. Now, some of us learn really well online on a computer, and some of us not so much, and some of us learn really well in person. I always thought of myself as an in-person learner, and if I had to say, I'd probably say for sure that's the way that I prefer overall. However, because I am a very busy person, I've changed the way that I think about this, and um, I'm much more likely these days to do an online training for anything, not just NLP, because of time constraints. And I'm just busy. I'm like you. I'm really busy, so um, it's hard to travel all over the place and go to various see wherever you want to learn something, or whoever you want to learn something from, to have to go and to them rather than to be able to access it online. So just because of the accessibility, and it cuts costs too to do an online training, that that's what makes online really appealing these days. So I have changed my mind about that. And when I first started teaching NLP, I didn't really think about doing online trainings because I wanted to I like the live contact and interaction. And then I started doing YouTube and I started doing things like this, going live, and started to realize you can have profound effects on people even through the internet waves. And so I changed my thinking about that as well. I think you can do a lot of really good interaction even through video calls. I really like it all. I like doing the live stuff, but I also like doing online teaching as well. Then decide what you want to get out of the practitioner training. And I would do that from specific to big. Why is it you want to take an NLP training? Why do you want to learn neuro linguistic programming? And I have my own reasons. And I've talked to so many people who had so many different reasons for wanting to learn neurolinguistic programming. They seem to come from all walks of life. They seem to have all different outcomes. And so I actually Googled it and I wanted to know what Google would say about why people want to learn neurolinguistic programming. And it basically came back as improvement to both professional and personal life. That was definitely true for me. I think what I told myself before I took my first training, which I couldn't afford, but I found a way to do it anyway. I told myself it was to fix my business. So I went through the professional route. But the truth was, well, in addition to really wanting to learn it for personal reasons, I wanted to personally improve myself. And I had just come out of a depression, the second one. And after going to a therapist for a year, who was very old school, by the way, and he helped me out, but I started to every time I went back into his office after I felt better and I didn't consider myself depressed anymore, he kept wanting to talk about my problems. And basically, so he helped me get out of the subterranean. He helped get me up on the ground level. But once we were on ground level and I started to like progress, he kept wanting to come back to ground level. And I was like, okay, this isn't working for me. I'm going to stay in the same place if I don't do something different. And that's when I started to think about mental health, personal development, all of those wrapped into one as like exercise and going to the gym, that it needs to be ongoing. You can't go to the gym once and then say, okay, I'm healthy. Or you go to one of those fitness boot camps for a week and then you leave there and you go, okay, I'm healthy for life. No, it has to be ongoing. So your mental health, your personal development, your growth, fulfilling your potential is ongoing. And that's why I named this Life Mastery Gym. You're going to be doing this for life. The original name of it was NLP Gym, but I decided I wanted to talk about more things than just NLP, even though NLP is really close to my heart and it's what I practice every day. And it's really the basis of my coaching. So figure out on a sort of a small chunk level what you would like to get out of the practitioner training. Like, do you is there something specific you want to overcome? And so you have that target or you have that intention, and then go to something bigger. So overall, how do you want this training to affect your life? What do you want to get out of it that's going to affect your life? And this is important. So when you have that range, small to large, you get the good feeling of fulfilling that small outcome when you complete the training. And then you have that bigger vision though. It's really important to have a vision of where you want to go with this. And I find that the most common thing that people are missing when it comes to anything that they want is a vision beyond the initial thing, the vision beyond the goal, the vision beyond the outcome. And most people are so lacking in vision, they're only focused on what it is they don't want in life or what their problems are. And so if they don't have a vision beyond that, they have nothing guiding them out of that problem situation. So you want to create that vision. What do you want your life to be like? And how is NLP going to contribute to that? And that's what I started to cultivate as I took more and more trainings and I kept applying it to my life. So that's a bit of my story. And like I said, when I finally decided to do my first NLP practitioner training, um, basically everyone around me was trying to talk me out of it. My wife at the time, now ex-wife, was saying, "You don't have the money to do this, and you should, be in your office working on your business, which isn't doing very well." My parents basically said the same thing to me. Everything around me was saying, "Don't do this," but inside of me, I was saying, "I've got to do this." And I couldn't explain it to anyone really what that feeling was, but I knew I had to do it. And when I went and I did that first training, I knew I had done the right thing. I had come to the right place. I felt like it was in alignment with my purpose in life, which at the time I felt very lost. So everything else felt very meaningless and purposeless. And so it was like suddenly something clicked inside of me. And I knew from that point forward, NLP was going to be a huge part of my life. I didn't know that I was going to become a teacher even at that time. I thought I was still going to try to fix my insurance business. And I did. It took me about a year to do that, a little more than a year. And I attribute that to learning NLP, which made me more aware of what was going on inside of me and the obstacles that I was encountering within and how to overcome those. And it's an amazing thing when you start practicing NLP and you start learning it, when you dissolve those obstacles within yourself, it's amazing that the obstacles that you perceived outwardly start to dissolve as well. And that's another thing that you can expect from an NLP practitioner training if you apply it. The other thing too is don't bother with short trainings. I find them to be a waste of money unless it's a specific. It's not an NLP practitioner training, but it's a specific training to achieve some sort of outcome, and they're using NLP to do it. That's fine. That might be a shorter training. But if they're calling an NLP practitioner training and it's 3 days long, that is not an NLP practitioner training, and you're going to waste your money. There is no way you can learn even the concepts, even if you sat through hours and hours of lecture straight through for 3 days, you would not get all of the concepts. You would not even be able to be told all of the concepts in a practitioner training, much less have a working understanding of them and being able to apply them and use them or even practice them. So you've got you need the longer the practitioner training, the better is what I would say. The more content, the better. The more they chunk everything down, all the concepts into bite-sized pieces with keeping the larger framework in mind, the larger picture in mind of what a practitioner of NLP should be. Those are going to be the best trainings, and those usually take several days. The first one I attended, I think, was 12 or 14 days, and the one that I teach is 24 days. The original ones back in the early days, whenever NLP was the technology hadn't grown yet, it was like 1980, was 30 days long. So as time has passed and the technology has grown, most places have shrunk their trainings down. And the reason why they've shrunk their trainings down is because people don't want to they can't take out, a month of their life to go learn NLP in, a different country or a different state. So for marketing purposes, they've shrunk these trainings down. And when I did my training, just said, to me, it's not worth teaching a NLP practitioner training unless I can teach the one that I want to teach. And so I taught a 24-day live practitioner training. And I found a handful of people, dedicated students who stuck with me through that entire training. It was a long training, and there was some very dedicated students, and it was an awesome experience for everyone. Loved that doing that. It was also tiresome as well, but I know every time I have attended a practitioner training, every time I've taught a practitioner training, I feel like I leave a little bit of myself behind and I gain a whole lot more of myself. It's a transformational process every single time. So don't bother with the short trainings, and yeah, you're just gonna waste money on short trainings, and you're not gonna be a practitioner. You're not gonna be an NLP practitioner just from a short training. Even a week training, there's just no way, that you can get it all in a one-week training. So go long. It's worth it. And if it costs a little extra, it's totally worth it. Do you wanna spend a little bit of money and not get what you want, or do you wanna spend a little bit more money on top of that and really get what you want, really get the benefits that you want? It's just worth it to invest a little bit more money and time and really get the outcomes that you want and really change your life. All right, what else? do we want to talk about here? If it's a really good NLP training, expect to be challenged. That's the whole point. If and expect to practice. You cannot get this, like I said, just sitting and listening to lectures. And a lot of people like to approach it that way. A lot of people like to approach it like public school. When you've gone to public school where you just sit in the lecture, you memorize stuff, maybe you study a little bit, and then you go and you ace the test. You are wasting your money and your time if you approach an NLP practitioner training that way. NLP practitioner trainings are experiential. If you don't do the exercises, you're not going to really learn anything. It is not a mental thing. It's not an academic thing. I mean, when I say mental, it's not like you can just hold the information in your mind and everything changes. No, you have to practice this stuff. And the fun thing is that well, that's just it. It's fun to practice this stuff. You will learn things about what people do and how they operate and human behavior that you've never seen before. It's like waking up to the matrix. You'll start seeing nonverbal communication and how powerful that is. And you'll just notice it and you won't be able to turn it off. And it's like you're seeing it'll seem so obvious now that you wake up to it. But you'll wonder, like, how did you miss all of this? And how does everybody keep missing this nonverbal communication that's going on everywhere? The other thing too is you'll start waking up to solutions that are just all around you. And that's a hard thing to grasp. Think about this. For any problem you have, the solutions are already there. You just haven't woken up to them. And I have a hard time swallowing that one myself, but it's been true every single time, and it's been typically while practicing Neuro Linguistic Programming that I've woken up to that, and I go, "Oh, okay. Yeah, that resource was always inside of me, I just wasn't accessing it, or that solution was always around me, I hadn't seen it, I hadn't woken up to it, it wasn't in my awareness." And so NLP is a practical way to open up your awareness and see what you haven't been seeing, which is there's so many resources and so many solutions all around you all of the time. So if the practitioner training isn't challenging, something's not right. You want it to be challenging. As far as certifications go, I don't put any stock in certifications. I know there's a handful of institutions that take that very serious and will test people. But what I found for most NLP courses, doesn't matter if you even show up to class. They'll hand you a certificate. If you pay the money, they'll hand you a certificate. And some of these online trainings, I think you can just print your certificate and they don't even check to see if you've done any of the training, or they don't test your skills or your competencies. So I put no stock in certifications, because if that's the way that it is, then it kind of spoils the certifications of even the other institutes. It's like, well, if that person can call themselves an NLP practitioner just by printing their certification off the internet, and then that person's calling themselves an NLP practitioner and they trained for 30 days straight and went through rigorous testing, they're both calling themselves an NLP practitioner. Why there is no equation. There is no what's the word I'm looking for? You know what I mean. It's not They're not the same thing, but they're both calling themselves the same thing. And so I dropped that. And when I would go through from training to training, as I was advancing to the more advanced trainings, I was seeing a lot of the same people who had been with me in the earlier trainings. And then we would be practicing or something like that. And they would come to me and they'd say, "Why are you so much better at this than I am?" And then I would start asking them questions like, "Well, since the last training, did you practice? Did you start incorporating this into your life?" "No." And I would say, "Well, what do you what do you expect? There's no secret to this. It's like anything else. The 10,000 hour rule to genius. If you're not practicing, don't expect to get better at something." And so that's why it's 10,000 hours to genius. It's not listen to somebody who's a genius tell you how to be a genius and then do nothing, and then somehow you become a genius. It doesn't work that way. It takes lots and lots of practice. And how much do you practice? You practice as much as you enjoy it and that you see it working in your life. Because when you see this working in your life, when you see NLP working in your life, you're going to want to do it more. You're going to want to practice it more. I became so obsessive about NLP. I was practicing it for hours a day, every single day, because I saw the results. I saw the progress in my life. And so I couldn't stop. And it was just so much fun. When you start seeing progress is so motivating. You'll wanna learn it more and more. And there will be times where it'll get tough, you won't understand something, and that's the hard part with a lot of these trainings is once the training's over with, there's usually no guidance after that, and I don't do that in my trainings. I give ongoing guidance with my trainings because I know how much that was missing for me, and I had to sort a lot of stuff out on my own. I didn't have a mentor right away. Later I did. Steve Andreas mentored me, but that was years later after I'd done several trainings. So, when I stepped out of my first practitioner training, I knew right then, I was like, "I don't really know NLP." I kinda went through a process, but I think the real learning begins now, and I think that was the right attitude to take. With a lot of the other students, they walked out, they had their certificate, and then so they felt certified, and they were like, "Okay, I did it, I'm done, I'm an NLP practitioner, and life's gonna change." And it's like, not really." Life is like anything else. It's a work in progress. So expect to rinse and repeat. So whatever you decide to go with, you want to keep repeating it. You want to, if it's a live training, that can be a little bit difficult. I did this. On live trainings, I would go back and attend the same training over and over. It got very expensive to do that, but I was really dedicated. With online trainings, depending on the online training, you can go through them as many times as you want, and so that's how I set up my online training for the practitioner training. You can revisit it as much as you want. It's lifetime access, and that's really what I encourage because I think in the long run, an online training that you can go through repeatedly is more powerful than an in-person training. Immediately, the in-person training will be more powerful because you're live and you've got more sensory information, but if you keep going through uh, that cycle, rinse and repeat of an online training, eventually it'll be much stronger than an in-person training. So pros and cons of both. Let's see what else. Yeah, don't expect to be tested. And like I said, most NLP institutes don't care if you're competent or not. Um, they some of them care if you show up, and that's how they'll give you your certificate. And they'll call it a participation certificate. And then some don't even care. I mean, I did one training, I'm not gonna name the name, but he's one of the top in the world. They didn't take attendance, and at the end of the training, they just put your certificates out on a table, and you just come and pick it up, and I realized, I was like, I could have never even shown up to class and just walked in on the last day, swiped up my certificate, and walked out and said, "I'm certified," and I have a stack of them. I know I've said this. If you watch some of my other videos, some of this is getting repetitive, I know. So, I have a stack. I have a folder full of certifications, and to me, they don't mean anything. They mean I spent a lot of money, and I spent days doing this. Let's see. Somebody says, "Okay, training every day. What the successful people are doing, it like to do the same way." Yes, work on it every day, even if it's 15 minutes a day. 15 minutes a day, working on NLP, especially practitioner skills. You'll get a lot that'll do a lot for you, much more than, say, 2 or 3 hours a week. The consistency is more important, and it keeps bringing your attention to it, and, you can practice your NLP skills with people when they don't even know what you're doing. That's a lot of fun. So when I couldn't find a practice partner, I would do that. I would do more of the covert stuff, and I wasn't, like, manipulating people, it was just more the sensory acuity and calibration skills. All right. If you're still the same person when you've completed an NLP practitioner training, something's not right. You missed something, or the training isn't very good. You should feel a transformation when you go through a practitioner training. And the way that you can make sure that you do that is by getting a good training, a good teacher, and doing all of the exercises. Doing all of the exercises. You cannot not change when you do NLP exercises. They work. They will definitely work. Some will be more powerful than others, but like I said, you can't not change when you do the exercises. Let's see. Did you learn different levels with these different trainers? When I went to more advanced trainings, yes, I did. Um, when you just go with one teacher, you get kind of a two-dimensional understanding of NLP. When you go to various teachers, you get, because you're getting different perspectives, it just makes it more textured, and you get more of, like I said, like a kind of like a three-dimensional understanding of NLP. That's why I bring in multiple teachers into my NLP training. And then we have connected to my practitioner training is a private Facebook group, and you have a range of students from advanced to beginner. And I love it whenever I answer all of the questions in the group. If a person puts a question in there, I'll answer it. But I love it when other students chime in with their perspective, because their perspective is valid, and there's wisdom in that. And the wisdom is not having the right perspective. Wisdom is then having access to many perspectives. And when you're talking to people about NLP, people who have various skill levels, even beginners, have a perspective that is valid and can add wisdom to um, to your skills and your knowledge, no matter what level you are. I love it whenever a beginner has an insight, and sometimes I can learn from that. So yeah, I just finished up the NLP training on a personal level, next certification and up the ladder. Okay. Well said. Thank you. With great power comes great responsibility. Do you believe this to be true for using NLP? Absolutely. And I won't say always, I often say that, especially when it comes to persuasion and influence. And as you become more powerful, as you become more in control of your life, absolutely, you have to consider um, responsibility. And what I say is, when you get the keys to the kingdom, are you gonna throw parties every night and wreck the palace? Or are you gonna take responsibility and be a good leader and be responsible? When I say leader, I'm meaning anything from the leader of your life to when you start influencing people a lot and they start to follow you, that comes with responsibility as well. Alright, is the condition ADHD, which is a neurological condition, treatable with NLP? I don't I'm not a therapist, so I don't treat anyone clinically. I do coach people. I have known clinical therapists who use NLP who have said that they can effectively treat ADHD with NLP. And all I can do is really take their word for it. Like I said, I'm not a therapist, and I don't really feel qualified to make judgments like that. But what I would say about NLP, first of all, there's no harmful side effects, so you might as well give it a try. And I would say what NLP does is it's always about looking for a solution and modeling what works. So you if you just keep working at it, eventually you'll find something that works. And if you model someone who doesn't have ADHD and you can apply that model to someone who does, more than likely you're going to find some solutions. It might not be an absolute cure, but you will find something useful. So Karen says your videos are awesome. Oh, thank you. Appreciate the comment. Um, let's see. Binaural beats are said to be cleansing. Can't really. I'm not too well versed in binaural beats. When will the course be ready? Will you have payment plans available? Uh, Payment plans are available, and I don't want to ruin the surprise, but be attentive this week. Let me say that. Be attentive this week. I'm going to offer something I've never offered before, and it's going to be really, really good. And I'm really excited about it. So, um, yeah, all I can say right now is just pay attention. If you're on my email list, even better. Open your emails from me, and I'll be here on YouTube and Facebook as well. So just look out for stuff. I don't want to ruin it yet. Let's see. Okay, someone saying that NLP has helped them with their ADHD. That's awesome. Like I said, yeah, it can be very much a personal thing too. Um, People will find things that work for them, and maybe it doesn't work for someone else when it comes to things like ADHD. But like I said, I've talked to NLPers, I've talked to therapists, and I've heard quite a few people say that they've made it work. Uh, yes, progress is motivating. That's right. And practice is fun. That's the thing about NLP too. I think the thing that people do is they approach it like they did in that like they approached academics in public school, and that's not fun. For most of us, it wasn't fun. When you approach NLP like a child approaches learning with playfulness, you think about a child, how they learn so many things like a language. Children learn languages really fast. They're not sitting down and focusing really hard and studying hard to learn a language. No, they're playful about it. And I remember when my daughter was just starting to speak, she would say something that was like what an adult would say, and it was really profound, and we would look at her and be like, "Did she just say that?" And then later, what I realized was if I paid attention to this more, how she was learning language, she was testing. She was hearing adults say stuff, and she was testing the situations in which those phrases, those words, those sentences, or even paragraphs would fit. And actually, the truth was, most of the time, she wasn't getting it right. She would just say things, and we'd go, "Oh, that, whatever, it's cute," and it wouldn't fit the situation. But it was those maybe 1 out of 10 times she would say something that fit the situation, and we would all go, "Whoa." And, of course, her conscious and her unconscious recognizes this, and she goes, "Oh, okay, well, that fits. When I say this during that time, that means something." And so it's just a matter of putting it together, but she was never afraid that she would get it wrong. She was just playing around. And I think that's the thing that holds people back the most in any type of learning, but especially learning NLP, is this idea that they're afraid to get it wrong. There is no getting it wrong. You're either getting the results you want, and if you're not, you're getting feedback that lets you know you need to do something different. There is no failure, there's only feedback. So it's not a right and wrong. It's am I getting the result that I want or am I not? And then you just keep doing that until you start getting the results that you want, and then you're able to track, okay, that's how I'm getting results. Then I'll double down on that. So have fun with learning NLP, and it is a lot of fun. I enjoyed every bit of it. Still do. It's just harder to find stuff that I don't want to say that I haven't learned because I certainly haven't even learned close to all of it. But I guess the stuff that I'm interested in learning. Okay, let's see what else. Lots of nice comments here. Thank you, everyone. Uh, somebody's looking for verbiage. What kind of verbiage are you looking for? Is there any way to get a hold of Dr. Matt? Well, there is the internet. I don't really associate with him anymore. Immediately connect. Let's see. So I can better communicate with people, and I immediately connect because they feel I speak their language of their brain. Oh, that's nice. Yes, that makes sense. That's what one of the things we do in NLP is we model other people's uh, verbal cues, their tonality, their nonverbals as well, and they will feel like you're speaking their language. It builds rapport quickly. Do I have plans to put a full practitioner course online? Actually, I have a full practitioner course online. The enrollment for it has not opened yet, but like I keep saying, uh, open your emails and keep watching these videos because I'm about to open something big, really big, something I haven't done before. Where to start? Start here. So if you want to know where to start, start here. Um, what I recommend for people if they're completely new to NLP, just heard about it. The first thing I tell people is to start watching videos on YouTube, and some are going to be good and some are going to be bad, and some of mine are not so great. I've left every single YouTube video I've ever done is still up. You can find it on my channel. I don't really necessarily encourage you to do that because my earlier ones weren't so great. And more so, not because I didn't know what I was talking about, but more so because of production quality. And I wasn't used to speaking to a piece of plastic and glass like I'm doing right now. I've gotten much better at it. But I made almost 600 videos. And so there's a lot of good content out there. And if you resonate with it, then there's a good chance that an NLP training is right for you. And then that's the next step is to take the dive and get into a good NLP training. And like I said, I do offer a kick-ass online NLP practitioner training, and more details coming soon. Let's see what else. I did NLP course twice with the same trainer. I did change a few things at that time, but later I couldn't practice it on my own. That's definitely the sign of a skilled NLP practitioner is being able to practice and apply NLP to yourself effectively as also with other people. Purnima, I know you're in my membership program. We're going to work on this this Sunday. Be on the call this Sunday. We'll work on it. Let's see. Agreed. I'm in the feedback stage. I love NLP very much. It comes very natural. Look forward to advancing. Excellent. Yeah, NLP is natural. It's basically our natural human processes, just becoming aware of them. And then once you become aware of them, you can change them. If you think about it, you have all these programs that are running, programs that were created, when you were born, they were started to be created. That's your habits. That's your what we could call your automations. But a lot of these things go outdated. So a program or a habit or an automation you made when you were 7 might not be serving you when you're 27 or 37 or 47 or 57. And then they at that time might be actually the obstacle and the limitation that's holding you back. So what you do with NLP is you go in and you're able to bring that into consciousness. And then once you bring your programs into consciousness, then you can change them. Now you're in charge. So the programs aren't running you anymore. You're running the programs. Let's see. Yes, so we can do that. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Okay, joining your list. Yeah, get up, get on my list. I've been doing a free. I've been creating an NLP persuasion and influence program called Secrets of Persuading and Influencing at the Identity Level. For those of you who don't know, and I've been doing the training live and invited everyone to come and watch. We've been doing that for 2 nights, last night and the previous night, and tonight's the last night of it. You can still get in on this. I didn't prepare a link because I thought for sure, everyone who wanted to go to it was already attending it, but you can still come for the last night. I'm gonna be giving away some incredible information. So this is a program that I'm working on. It's a work in progress, and I decided, "Hey, wouldn't it be interesting if I could show this to people as I'm making it?" And so we've had a huge turnout. A lot of people showed up, and it's been really cool. I've been getting great feedback on this training, and I just want to make it the best that I can possibly make it. It's a shorter training, much smaller training than my practitioner training, and it's yeah, I'm excited about it because I want to get people in on the process because I want it to be the best that it can possibly be. So tonight you can still get in on it. I believe if you go to my website, you can. There's a pop up that comes up, and you can sign into it. Um, if you're on my email list, I've sent you the opt-in for it, and if you still can't find it, maybe I'll post them in the comments here. Okay, please explain NLP in a few lines. Wow. Um, Neuro Linguistic Programming. Neuro meaning the 5 senses, how we take in information. Linguistic is the words that we speak, which is one of the codes for how we think. Program is like what I was mentioning before. We have programs. Most of what's running us are unconscious programs. So when you think about driving to work, a lot of times you don't even remember driving to work. Why? Because you have a program that does that. It knows the route, and you can tune out and do other things. But you can take this even deeper. As I'm speaking to you, you're hearing me speak words, and you're understanding what I'm saying nearly instantly. So you're not going into your head and saying, uh, defining every single word that I'm saying. No, you're having a sensory impulse with every single word that I'm saying. There's a something sensory based that shows up in your mind with every single word that I'm saying that lets you know the meaning of it. So think about the difference between looking at a painting and recognizing 7 colors versus reading on a piece of paper what those 7 colors are. It's going to take you a lot longer to read those words rather than look at a painting and just instantly see that information of the 7 colors that it's made of. How does that work? How is this working? How are you understanding? How are these impulses happening? How are you understanding, comprehending everything that I'm saying rapidly rather than, defining every single word? That's because you have tons of unconscious processes going on right now that absorbs communication and makes sense of it. You're not aware of it. So what NLP does is it starts waking you up to these unconscious processes so that you can change them, so that you can modify them because they're, in most cases, limiting your life to a certain extent. They're helping you because we need automation. We need to not have to think about every single little thing and define it. And we need to be able to make decisions without having to go through the process of making a decision like we do when we're first confronted with something new that we've never seen before. We generalize. We say, "Oh, I recognize this is like that time that I did this," and then boom, you make a decision. Sometimes it's helpful, but sometimes it gets you into trouble. And a lot of times we're locked in these cycles of mediocrity, of limitation, and we're not quite sure what it is, but we know we can do more. We know we have greater potential to fulfill. And when we're not fulfilling that potential, it's the cause of a lot of suffering. And a lot of people are just not even awake to this. They just know the suffering. That's the only thing that's conscious. All the other parts of this are unconscious. So what NLP does is it wakes you up to all that and it gives you direct processes and techniques to modify these unconscious processes so that you can create the processes that you want and then let that go unconscious, which makes it even more powerful. So imagine being propelled toward success without even realizing it, just the same way that somebody may be propelled to sabotage themselves. So if you were propelled to success and this was built into your unconscious, this is pretty amazing. You don't have to get up every morning and think, "Oh, I got to motivate myself to go do this." No, you just go. And it's the opposite of sabotaging yourself. It's making you successful every step of the way. All right, you guys are making me talk much longer than what I expected. As you can see, I get excited about this stuff. Okay, so I mean, there's many different ways to define NLP. I just gave you one off the top of my head. It's a structure-based model. It's not content-based. So it uses the structures and it bypasses the content, which is why it works so fast and why it's so effective. Let's see. So I did NLP practice in the past with the help of your videos, and it helped me a lot. Great, but I didn't practice for over a year, and I need to know what practice should I start. My practitioner training would be the best thing. With the videos, you just get bits and pieces here and there, and what's better if you have a something that's more cohesive and runs you through an exact process. Okay, can you give examples of how to practice? Not now. It's already I can't believe I've been at this for 43 minutes already. I did the first 3 modules of your program, and I loved it. Thank you. I felt like I fell behind and stopped. The last 2 days training have really helped me recommit as I understand my values more clearly now. Excellent. Wonderful to hear that. Okay, so big announcement tonight. If you're on my training that I've been doing, my live training that I've been doing, the big announcements there, I'll be giving it at the end of the training, so you can still hop onto that. If not, open your email, get on my email list and open your email because some amazing things are coming. And like I said, I'll be here as well too, Facebook and YouTube to talk about this as well. But it's going to be one of those things that it's really, really good, so it's not going to last. In other words, it's not gonna be around, but only a few days. So look out for that. What are the practical applications of NLP? Um, are empaths better at NLP? Wow, that's an interesting. All right, let's see if I can give you some really short answers here. What are the practical applications of NLP? Basically, think about anything you want to be better at. That's the practical application of NLP. How do I take what I'm good at and map that across to what I'm not so good at that I want to make better and strengthen better? So, persuasion, influence, communication, achieving goals, inspiring others. Basically, there are NLP applications and models for almost anything. And if they don't exist, if one doesn't exist, you can learn how to create them. You can learn how to model and create them. So there is no limit to the practical applications of NLP, and NLP itself is a practical application. It's not, like I said, one of those things that just sticks in your head or you're supposed to memorize and somehow that's going to work for you. NLP is practical application. That's the whole point of it. Are empaths better at NLP? Empaths would be better at a certain part of NLP. Empaths would be really good at going second position. Empaths would be really good at getting rapport but empaths can be not so great at leading people. And so when you pace and lead, pace is when you build rapport with someone by kind of stepping into their world, which empaths are great at. But the leading part, empaths usually get so caught up in someone else's world that they forget to step out of it and go back to their own and then lead that person where they want them to go. So the problem with empaths is they often get caught up in other people's business, other people's business. um, what are empaths? Empaths are people who are extremely empathetic or sympathetic to other people. Now we all, to a certain extent, have empathy and sympathy, and we should be able to know when to turn that on and turn it off. The problem with empaths is a lot of times they don't know how to turn it off. So you just want to have that ability, and NLP will teach you that. Okay, before anybody asks any more questions, I'm going to get off. This is wonderful, though. I love doing this, by the way, and I'm going to be doing more in the coming days. So look out for it, and really appreciate the questions and the wonderful comments. Really, some of you are very kind. Thank you so much, and I will see you soon, guaranteed. Take care, everybody.